I must tell you that Fred is so correct when he said that we have been coming here for now 14 years. And I don't know how Fred got to persuade me to begin. But once I started, I could not stop. You know, there's a joke I have because when I was a youngster, I went to East Street Gospel Hall Sunday School. One of my cousins took me there. And when I became a politician, I went to the groundbreaking of a church. And as they were passing the shovel around, each pastor said a verse from the Bible. And I said, now, Lord, I can't make myself shame here. I've been to Sunday school. And in Sunday school, you learn verses of the Bible. And I remember in Sunday school, they gave me the shortest voice, Jesus wept. And so, you know, truly, but it was a wondrous thing for me to come and share with Fox Hill. Not so much because of its rich history, but to actually go back in my own memories and reminisce as to when I was a youngster and when every effort was made to get me to go to Sunday school and to understand what really values was all about. It was the beginning of teaching us respect for our elders, respect for institutions, respect. And so I want to be able to say to the children today, to congratulate them for all that they're doing now. And to the parents who are here, it is ever so important that you have been able to make the special effort so your children would have this day etched in their memories. So one day, when one of them is a prime minister or a minister or a politician, like those of us who are here, they would be able to say, I remember the time when I said a recitation or sang a song, when all the politicians were assembled on Fox Hill Day. And it's so important. Now, Fred Mitchell was also telling me, because I'm fascinated by history, and one of the points I always make when I speak about really a lamentation from me as to why so many enriching parts of our history have not been told, or why we simply do not know. And really, we have been an oral society, meaning we tell the story rather than write it. And I've been urging our people to write it. And that is why Fred is so correct. Because in coming up here, you have to, over the years, come to find out what this thing is all about and how people lived. You know, you walk the walk. Well, those of you who live in Fox Hill would have been over the years walking the walk. For us, we talk the talk. We just hear it, and we try to recite some things about it. But there's an old African proverb, and you know, maybe the first thing I really ought to have said, isn't it wonderful to see how the politicians are playing with each other this morning? I mean, Fred Mitchell stopped and called Jacinta Higgs up, and Jacinta Higgs said, thank you so much, Mr. Mitchell. And she looked like she meant it. And then Mr. Mitchell, no, I hear her saying, don't mind me. I have the platform now. You can talk as much as you like. Okay? And how Mr. Mitchell then said, call Mr. Bethel up. And Mr. Bethel came up and spoke about George Mackey. I say, man, this is just working out so right. I mean, this is the example that we should be setting for our children. And Mrs. Higgs, let me just say this. I said at one of the other churches last Fox Hill Day, I like to see how you and Fred get on this day. It's just a wonderful example you two set to show that even though when the time comes you are politically divided, but when it comes to the overall example being set for children and the community, you are one. And that is how it should really be. But you know, they told me, and Carl, you know what was interesting, the kind of tribal sort of differences that existed. You heard her talk about the Nangos and the Congos. But they tell me that the Yorubas, yeah, who are in West Africa, centered around Nigeria and its outlying areas, were here with the Nangos and the Congos, but that there was a division in Mount Keri, up there, where the Yorubas say, listen, man, y'all go, and I'm told the Nangos or the Congos came this way. Now, the preacher, will have to tell me that story because I'm fascinated by it. And that the Yorubas up there on the hill say, y'all go down there and do your dancing as much as you like. We're going to be up here. 1870. So listen now, in 1870, when that division took place up there, one tribe pulled out, headed this way, and formed this church. And so, we can't run away from our history. It's ever so important we know it. But it becomes such an enriching thing. You shouldn't be selfish with it, those of you from Fox Hill. It must be shared. Now, look here, I must make one final little point. It was wonderful to see how the smart politician sticks the pin. You heard when Senator Higgs said, now, even though Fred Mitchell is not from Fox Hill, we let him in, and we voted for him. I took license in putting an extra sentence, a few words in there, but even that is wonderful. You see, and when Fred came up, I thought he was going to jab back, so he just he made a correction. He made a correction to let you know that he on top of things too, you see. So, But listen, the essence of this is this, that in the Bahamas, those of us who are in public life are subjected to all sorts of cruel things. And oftentimes we do not deserve that, because even though we are politically divided, we know that when it comes down to our reputations, each of us must have an obligation to ensure that we do nothing to unfairly, unjustly, or lie about the other to the point where we mess around with their reputation. It is happening too often in our country. And as a result of that, we are getting young people to be confused about who is what and what is what. And so at all times, this kind of occasion, to me, gives us this wonderful opportunity to be able to hold hands and embrace each other so that the Bahamian public can see that when it comes down to our culture, when it comes down to our history, we are the same people, indivisible one to the other. We believe in the same things, and we know that in committing ourselves to believing in the Bahamas, right, that we all will do the right thing when we have the opportunity. And that is why, for me, I went out and learned, and I'm going to conclude as I began. When I realized how inadequate I was in citing the Bible, I then learned another verse from the Bible and other verses from the Bible. So when I go to a groundbreaking now, I'm able to say very easily in the House of Assembly, outside the House of Assembly, something that I taught Ryan Pinder, and who is now able to, in a little kind of way, to recite the same thing. And it is something that I want to leave you in this church, because it is the Lord's word, and I'm in church, undergirding our resolve to make our country work, to make our country better, and to recognize that even though the days are dark and the times are bad and violence abounds, that around the corner there are better days. That must be our commitment. It must be our resolve. And the verses, Kyle, you must go home and read the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, because the verses go as follows. Put on the full armor of God. So when the day of evil comes, or the day of testing comes, you're able to stand your ground. And when you've done your best to stand, you still stand. And it goes on, with the belt of truth wrapped around your waist, and the breastplate of righteousness in place, and your feet made ready by the gospel of peace. And it goes on to talk about the sword of salvation, but the most important point of all, to those of us who receive the fiery darts and arrows that are thrown our way, it speaks about the shield of faith. That the shield of faith, so long as you have the faith, that shield will protect you from all of the fiery darts thrown your way. And I say that is what our country is made of. That's why we must believe in it. That is our resolve, that you get knocked down, you stand back up. That is what it's all about. And so for us here, you don't know couple prime ministers, couple ministers, couple preachers, couple doctors in this church with these children. And our obligation is to pass on to them in this final sentence a Bahamas that they all could be proud of.